Hello, welcome to the People Profit Podcast, the show where we flip the script on traditional business thinking and prove that when you put people first, profits follow. I'm Sandra Croker, your guide on this journey to more engaged teams, loyal customers, and a healthier bottom line. These episodes are brought to you by Human Power Solutions, helping organizations unlock the human potential that powers performance. Whether you're a leader, an HR pro, or a curious change maker, buckle up. We're diving into fresh stories, real-world strategies, and a few laughs along the way. Ready to turn your workplace into a profit-powered people machine? Let's get started. I'm so excited for today's guest, Debbie Prediger. She is the founder of Empowering You community and the Be Extraordinary Women's Network. Debbie is an amazing guest. I'm so excited to have you today. So welcome, Debbie.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I love conversations with people that put people first. That's really what it's all about. And that's at the heart of everything that I do. So thank you for this conversation today.
And I guess the first question I really want to ask you, Debbie, is, your leadership journey started with mentoring and community building, that kind of thing. Can you share how that evolved into the work that you do today?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting because I didn't think that I was a natural leader, right? Everything that I was ever part of, I ended up being the person that kind of facilitated or took it over or communicated with everybody else. But I wouldn't have actually said, "Oh, Debbie's the leader of things." So it evolved naturally. I actually have a background in nursing. And so as a nurse, you walk into a situation, you see what needs to be done, right? You assess it really fast and then you just naturally do it. But if somebody would have said, "Oh, Debbie, are you the leader of the team of nurses?" I would be, "No, that's not me."
Right.
So leadership come naturally, but it was more of observation and then seeing how people like to be connected, how they wanted to be spoken to, how they would thrive in a great environment, or maybe hide a little bit if the environment wasn't so great. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It's interesting. It's almost like the accidental leader. You weren't looking for it, and there you were, the accidental tourist. It's interesting when people gravitate to someone like yourself, right? What do you think the quality is about you that just people are, "I can trust you"?
That's such a good question. And I get told all the time that they feel different in my presence. So they feel safe. They feel like I actually hear them and that what they say matters. And to tell you the truth, that's because I do hear their outside voices and their inside voices. I actually have an intuitive background where I can see, hear, and know what somebody is feeling. It was something I hid for a long time because I thought that I was weird and that if somebody knew that I could know that much about them, that they would run away. And now I embrace it as part of my leadership because I truly do understand what people are desiring and also what they're not desiring, running away from, if that makes sense.
It does. That's fascinating. It's funny because we've connected a bunch of times online, right? And this is really our first conversation. But the minute you reached out to me and we were having this online chat, I was like, I really like her. It is really very genuine that your whole interaction comes across as very genuine. And that must really give people a lot of comfort.
And thank you for saying that, because I believe that we all have this really a great energy, but you're either magnetic or you're repelling.
Yeah.
Or it's just me. And so really, my whole desire in life is to help people be magnetic and for them to feel that there's something worth being magnetic about.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do you balance that? So let's, you're in this leadership role, right? And you have to balance that intuition that maybe not a lot of people understand. And if you don't understand it, go do some research on it because it's fascinating, right? I always tell people, don't be afraid of what you don't know. Just research it a little bit. How do you balance that with being an effective leader without being too, I'll use the word woo-woo, right? So
Yeah.
how do you balance that
So
out?
my background in nursing was all about science, right? It was all about like how things really worked. And then I kind of went over, and that's a story for another day. I went over to the energy world where it really is like, how are we connecting with ourselves? How are we connecting with others? Is that repelling? Is there, when you walk into a room and it feels icky, is that actually a thing? And how can we turn that into a marketing and connecting with others? And so what I do is I call myself that strategic mindset coach, where it is about empowering you, but I have to figure out what's the gap between what you say you want and what actions you're actually taking. And then I'm not telling you what to do. I'm leading you towards that by seeing where the gap is and recognizing that I can help you get out of your own way and actually receive everything you're desiring, because there's probably some subconscious or limiting belief or old pattern or habit that's keeping you in this loop of attracting the things that you say you don't want, but they're the things that are actually showing up in your life.
I think that resonates. We could get down a very long rabbit hole today, right? Because I think a lot of the stuff that many people go through their childhood and through their different experiences, and they have this persona about them as they become adults, right? They've got it all together and they have all this and that. But there sometimes are those little voices behind us that say, oh no, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? Right. And breaking through that and getting someone past that point,
Well, I think that that's where my gift really shows up, is I'm really able to hold the mirror up and let them see the true them, the one that's hiding in the background, the one that doesn't quite feel that they're ready to show up and be all of that they were created to be. And so it is a nurturing, it is a gathering. I actually have a shine framework where it is self-awareness first, right?
Yeah.
We have to be self-aware so we can connect to ourselves, so we truly can love ourselves and accept ourselves so that we can connect to others from that perspective. That's the true leader in you.
Yeah.
If we're still hiding a little bit of who we are, and it's a growth evolution, every day we show up in a better version of ourselves if we're intending it. But with all of that, there's the next evolution in shine is healing. We need to look back at some of the old habits and patterns and situations that told us a specific story about ourselves. And do we actually believe that? Or is there an opportunity for us to release that and let it go and move into more intuitive, where that might sound woo, but I believe that the whole world is tapping into their intuitive nature now. It's, what does it feel like in your body? And so, like I said, as a nurse, I was very strategic and I was very sciencey. And then I found the energy. And then I went back and really geeked out about the brain and how it works and how it's trying to keep us safe. And then I realized that I actually, for years, had the brake and the gas on at the same time. And that's why my body shut down. And that at that time, I wouldn't have told anybody I was a leader. Do you see the evolution in which I've come through in order to get to where I am today? Because I had to go back and I had to recognize and rewrite my stories and release a whole bunch of old habits that were keeping me safe for a long, long time.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. What's the INE in shine?
So the I is intuition. The N is nurturing, which is nurturing and nourishment, because I believe they both are very important. And eat energy and elevate elevate your leadership, which is empower.
I'm not a big woman advocate. I think both sexes have a lot, as a value in this world. But I do feel like that a lot of times women have more of that baggage and they're not able to let go of as much of their baggage as men can sometimes. So do you find yourself, is there a difference when you're leading and coaching men versus women? And what is that kind of like?
Well, I first and foremost, I would tell you that men that are in the hustle, the grind, the do it, the work harder would not be attracted to my lifestyle of leader or my style of leadership. So I have a lot of men in my world, but they are very attached to their intuition. They understand what something feels like in their body. They understand what alignment and congruence means. And it's not just push through it. It's let's actually work with it so that it's teaching us or showing us where there is a gap, where there is a possibility for something new to happen, a new perspective, a new action step. And so is there a difference in those two? Are you heart-centered and purpose-driven versus are you all about, I'm the man in charge and I get to do what you tell, you do what I say.
Yeah.
So how I lead is more about presenting hope and possibilities. And what happens with that is that if you're in this place where you didn't even know something was possible, then how can you actually choose to go take action towards it? So what I'm doing first is helping people see themselves. And then in that light, oh, that is possible for me too. I can relate to her story. I can understand that this is maybe why I went through this thing in my life and why it's so important for me to tap into that mission and message. And if I'm talking to that particular person, it doesn't matter if it's man or woman.
Right. Yeah.
But I'll give you an example, Sandra, is I just led a Shine Your Unique Light Visibility Challenge. And the people that joined that challenge and in 3 days just totally took off in a whole new world. And they can't express so much gratitude for what they went through and how they rediscovered who they were and what lights them up and all of the things. That's the work that I do. That's the leadership. But what I say is that I'm creating leaders of leaders, right? You might not know you're a leader yet, but when you're fully shining your light, you recognize that you're being a way shower for others. And in that decision, then we're changing the world. In that decision, we're creating a ripple effect.
Wow. I have so many things so when you think about people profit, I'm just so fascinated by all of this. We're very employee centric, right? We want our leaders to really give our employees the space they need to grow, the safety they need to make mistakes. And I'm hearing this type of a leader that you can inspire to have their shine. What are their employees experiencing when they're in these leadership roles?
Yeah. So I'm just going to share from my heart right now is I just got off of a phone call with somebody that I'm helping her. So consultant for other work. And the ripple effect that's happening because of this type of leadership is that person at the top that I just said I probably wouldn't work with. Well, I was actually the bridge between several of those till he has the shift and says, wow, there's a complete different way of leading. And I've got 100 people here that I need to lead in a different direction. Now, this is also why I'm so passionate about the work that I'm doing, is that not everybody can hear my voice. I'm not meant for everybody. But when I'm leading leaders of leaders and I help them really align to their truth and their message and what they're passionate about, now they're going and attracting the people that are meant for them.
Right.
And that comes back full circle. So I talk about the ripple effect all the time. I fully believe that if we treat people with the respect so that everybody feels seen and heard and valued, that we're creating this one big family that helps build the vision, builds the business, and they don't want to leave. Why would they want to leave? You understand them. You're going to up-level them when they need to be up-leveled. You're going to help them go into a lower position if they need to step back a little bit, because they're not just somebody in your company doing a specific job. They're part of the family.
That is fascinating. When we talk about retention, we talk about, the leaders and how they're treating people. That retention piece, I think a lot of leaders miss. If they're a number, right? And there's some turnover there. But what they don't, some get it, but what some don't is that turnover is costing so much money, not only in hiring and everything, but also in the productivity of that team.
Yep.
So you do everything you can to retain your team so that they can become a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And your business grows. And it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
So right now, because I work with a lot of different organizations and communities and movements and all that type of thing as they're building and growing, right now I've partnered with somebody that's doing a beautiful assessment to help me build my team, but also help other people see, how do teams work better together? And this assessment is called Working Genius. And what do you know about it?
No, I was actually just going to ask you about that. So you said, where you're right.
Okay, because I just it's so fascinating. So what I was struggling with, I'll tell a personal story. I was struggling with being in a consultancy role where I was coming in and offering my advice. And then they might want me to do a lot of other things that wasn't my thing, right? If that really just feel me. And so eventually I was getting burnt out. And I love the company. I love the movement. I love their mission, but I just was like stagnant. And so I was beating myself up like, what's wrong with me? Like I'm losing all this momentum. And so thank goodness, Jenny Reyes come in and seen what was happening. She could see behind the scenes. And so she helped me get this Working Genius assessment for myself. And right away I was like, well, here's my working genius. And I'm being put in these roles that are draining me day in and day out. Of course, I want to go back up in over here and start another project with somebody else, or maybe step aside or whatever. So I said, well, if I'm really, truly going to lead a team, I need everybody on the team to take this assessment. And now because of that, everybody on the team is so much more fulfilled and in their zone of genius. And like as a team player, we know we have to do things that we don't always love at times. But if we can understand what lights somebody up, which is the premise of everything that I do, what lights you up, what brings you joy, if we can understand that, and we can understand where we are getting in our own way, like I had no business doing some of the things that I was being called to do. I should have just stood up and said, no, thank you. That's not me. Then everything works. And now I'm doing these in assessments in these other groups and communities and collaborations that I've been doing. And they're seeing the same type of, I want to say enlightenment, but freedom. Did you understand the freedom that comes when when somebody not only sees you as like, geez, Debbie's good at everything. She can just do it all. Yeah, but it all don't light me up. It was draining me. And it was, if we're really honoring the people that we hire or collaborate with, whether it's a hire, an employee, or a collaboration, but if we're really honoring that, we want it to always fulfill them. We want everybody to go away at the end of the day or the end of the project and say, that was the best thing I ever did.
Yes.
And when you're working in your frustration versus what's your genius is, you're going to feel empty and unfulfilled. So let's get everybody fulfilled and in their place of joy.
That's great. So we very similar, right? So we're in that science piece. I got a science background and I'm kind of a factual person. We talk about this communication styles and where people want to fit. And I was working with a client one day and this woman was a receptionist and she was not a happy receptionist, right? So we're doing our team building and we're doing all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, no wonder why so-and-so is not happy. I'm like, she's good on Monday. Her energy's high on Monday because she's had time to regroup. By Tuesday, she's a little irritable. By Wednesday, you can't talk to her. I'm like, why is she in this role? I'm like, where do you want to be? She's like, I love numbers. I just want to be by myself. I'm like, great employee. Don't want to lose her. Put her where she will.
Oh, amen. And I love that what you said is you asked, right? Maybe the working genius wouldn't have even been necessary if somebody would have asked or recognized that it was draining versus like the last thing that I ever want to do is push at somebody to complete a job or shame them that the job wasn't good enough. Go find out what lights them up and then put them in the right role in the right place and then celebrate them, acknowledge them, respect them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. So this workplace right now, hybrid, remote, some in person, it's busy. We're mixing our lives, right? How does all this work for that burnt out individual who just can't seem to separate themselves out from their work?
Okay, so what I think I hear you say is that there's a specific person that's kind of doing it all and they're feeling like they're a little burnt out, but yet there's more opportunities to work or play a different role than ever. Yeah, okay, so perfect. So I think, again, it really goes back to what lights you up. So if you're having to be on a Zoom call all day long and that actually feels draining to you, is there another way that you could be a mentor or a teacher or a valuable part of the team? And so really understanding that. Some people don't want to have cameras on. Some people only want in person. If you're a in-person networker, you just love to investigate who is everybody and what lights them up. Wouldn't you want them to be the one that went to all the trade shows and really chatted up? There's roles in every company as long as you're really listening and seeing and accepting that it's not about you and blinders on of like, I need this person to do this, but really open up and then help them have a conversation about what lights you up. And then also, I think the permission for them to ask. If you have an open, clear communication where you're not their best friend, that you're still an employer or somebody in leadership, but there's an open conversation where you could say, like, I actually think you could better utilize me if you let me do this particular thing. Or could you give me a chance to do something different than what I'm doing every day for the last 10 years?
Running a business is hard. Developing your people shouldn't be. At Human Power Solutions, we act as your outsourced chief learning officer, designing custom learning and development experiences that actually move the needle. No fluff, no cookie cutter workshops, just results. Whether your people need better communication, stronger leadership, or less burnout, we provide strategic solutions that align with your goals and keep your team moving forward. Visit hpowersolutions.com and unlock your team's full potential without disrupting operations.
And I think employees would stay, even if you gave them a side project, right? I mean, they have a role, all employees have a role in their companies and a job to do. But finding, like you said, what lights them up? What's their passion? Maybe giving them something that they could spend some 10 hours a week out of their 40 or 50 hours on something that really gets them jazzed. I think that's really important.
I love that you said a side project. Isn't that perfect? Because if you have employees that are actually get lit up about taking on a project of their own, that in itself tells you that they're innovative and that they love to lead. So then giving them almost like a test thing where it's like, okay, run with it. Yeah. Like you don't need a whole team to tell you what to do. You come back to us and show us. And really that's what I'm looking for in my own, when I'm bringing in leaders or co-leaders, is I'm looking for somebody that's innovative and they're ready to just say, I could do this. Give me a chance.
Yeah. I think I've got two Gen Zers, I guess. I've got two kids are Gen Zers. And, they oftentimes don't have much work. So they're working, but there's not much work. It's changing now as they're getting more vocal. My advice, I'm their moms. I'm like, be vocal, ask for some work. Keep that Gen Z. Yes. How do you keep that Gen Z engaged in that leadership period where you don't want to let go of something, or you're not quite sure if you're going to trust? How can we use some of your methodologies to let go a little bit?
Well, so if I'm the one that needs to let go, I have to be way more open to the possibility. So in order to be open to the possibility, I have to actually realize, so what are some things I could delegate or let go of or give away? So that would probably be my first part of the awareness equation. And then really understanding what lights them up, having a conversation, taking them out, maybe even doing some type of, leadership, mentorship courses where they would co-lead with me and then let them shine. Because if you give people like that a chance and then say, like, you're not in a box, it doesn't have to be this particular way. I'm not mentoring you to mimic me. I'm mentoring you to put your own spin on this.
Yeah.
I believe, and I might be wrong on this, but I believe that everybody has this need to feel like they belong, and they don't have to be somebody else in order to be accepted and belong. So I can be the real me. So if you're giving those examples of like, I loved it when you did that,
Yeah.
or I naturally know that you can just go out and speak to anybody or whatever. If you're highlighting the few things, you're giving permission. And then that just continues to develop over time that they do. I call it the cream rises to the top.
Right.
But you have to not only witness the cream, you have to celebrate them as well. And I believe that providing them with a safe space to make mistakes or try it out or play along is really what it's all about.
And I think it really understand their learning styles, right? Because not everyone learns the same way. And you talk a lot about the shift, so you've got to make a mindset shift in a way. Those leaders that we talked about before, they're running, they're going. And how do you get those leaders to make that shift from that traditional top-down approach, which didn't really work, to that more people-first leadership approach? How do you get people?
Well, again, it's through awareness. So are you actually happy? Are you doing things the same way for the last 10 years or more because this is what you learned and it's going to be a little uncomfortable to change? Are you ready to have a change? And what does that change? What could it look like? So there's a lot of brainstorming in the way of dreaming. What is possible? What could that feel like? And I always help people understand their feelings because I believe that our bodies are telling us something long before our logical brain says, hey, we need to make a shift. So are you energized? Do you have that knot in your stomach all the time? Is your shoulders feel like you got the weight of the world on them? Is there some signs you're not actually paying attention to? And so again, we plant some seeds and we talk about some other times when somebody else experienced something and then had a shift, because what that does is that story helps them see themselves and go, there's no shame or blame. Let's just open and allow this next thing to evolve because there is a new way of leading.
So I'd love to hear a success story from someone that was really tough that made that mind shift. Do you have anyone in mind?
Oh, I probably have a lot. The one that's coming to my mind was, it was somebody that was really, really managing. There was a lot of responsibility. And what happened is the responsibility and the burden on the shoulders, all the weight, carrying all the weight of the company, and then, the lack mentality, the abundance, everything started spiraling downwards. And what I recognized is this person had an old habit pattern of survival. And survival is not going to be abundance. It's not going to be opening and allowing. It's going to be controlling. It's going to be fear-based. It's going to be shaming. I can feel all of these different emotions and where in the body they're feeling it. So we really just worked through these. And so if we're talking about the shine, it really was, most of it was in the healing part.
Gotcha.
So the shift come when the healing of the old stories and recognizing why they did things a certain way. Why, when somebody did this, was there a triggered reaction instead of well thought out from a leadership standpoint? What kind of leader do you want to be? And then why is there something that snaps in there and then all takes you down out of that power place? Not power from I'm the best, but standing in your power. Yeah. There's a total difference of that. And when people are controlling and dominating and won't listen, and then they're, telling somebody they're doing it wrong, that's coming from fear of lack. I'm doing it wrong. I'm going to lose everything. It must be your fault because I obviously know what I'm doing here. And so the shift happens. It doesn't happen just like that. but it does happen because you started to make the decision that I'm going to be more self-aware. And with that, I'm going to be more healing, more forgiving, and really lean into what is this telling me that I haven't accepted or understood yet.
Yeah. And this, I mean, there's was a phrase that just gets me every time. And I tell people, don't ever say this phrase to me because I will just shut down. I know it. And it's one of those things, but not a lot of people have done that kind of work. Right. I think the enablement and the invention. So talk to me about that with the working genius.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I want to circle back to that because I think the listeners will really enjoy this.
Yeah. So working genius is not my working genius. It's Jenny Reyes. And so she explained this to me that it's, you've got 6 levels, and levels aren't in better or worse. They're just 6 different components of how a team needs to work together. And that invention is somebody that's like, I can think it, I can do it, I can create it. And I could go all the way down and be the person that actually did it, the tenacity, the person at the end that dots all the T's and or I's and crosses the T's. But if I did all of those things all the way through, I'd be extremely burnt out. So the invention and then the enabler, the enabler is the person that a lot of people bypass and say, she's just so nice. She just can do everything. But they don't actually see it as the genius until they don't have an enabler in their midst. And then it's just like a cog on the wheel is missing. Like, oh, we get to here, and then we don't have anybody that actually like pulls the team together and can see all the missing parts. But just because you can see it doesn't mean you should do it all, right? And that's the thing that I used to do. Is I'd walk into the room and I can see all the things that need to be connected. And I can connect this person, and all of the assignments. But really, if I think about what I just said before, where you're coming from lack and you're coming from control, I was really trying to just do it all. And that was part of my people pleasing. That was part of my old story that I needed to heal from. When I can trust that I have a role to play, and then all these other people along the cog have a role to play. And together we can come together and do this. Now we're such a powerful team. We can help each other out, but we do not have to take over somebody else's role.
And that goes to, you don't have to know everything, right? You just have to have the people around you that can help get to where you need to go. I think the leaders have a hard time with that.
So I believe that that's the new level of leadership. That's the new style of leadership. I believe that at one time we thought that the word leader meant that they were the person at the top that could hire you, fire you, make your life miserable, make it abundant. Instead of now, if every one of us has a role and we're just to play that role, we can be the very best at that role. And you can be the very best at your role, and I'm no better than you, and you're no better than me. But together is what it makes it so wonderfully. And that goes back to working in that environment. You never want somebody, it doesn't matter what job you have, you never want somebody looking down at you that you're the janitor and I'm the blah, blah, blah. We're here to do a work, and every person along the whole path is needed and necessary and very important.
Yeah, I mean, we talk when I'm doing work in the hospitality. I do a lot in the hospitality industry. I love it. And I think I probably mentioned this in a couple of episodes. But, in our restaurants, I'll sit with the servers and I'll sit with the managers and say, guess who your most important person is? And they're like, I'm like, your dishwasher. Because if a dirty plate goes out to a table, it just comes right back at you. And that level of, everyone should experience what everyone is doing, and everyone is very important in these roles. And most of my restaurants now have everyone go through a shift in every station, so they can understand and empathize.
Oh, I love that. One of the first really great leaders that I had, bosses, leaders, whatever you want to call it, was in the hospital, and she was in a brand new role, and she did exactly that. Before we knew she was hired for that role, she came and worked alongside every one of us for a month, learned about us. And then it was announced that she was actually going to be the maitre d' of the hospital. And we were just like, wow, that is true leadership.
Yeah.
And I really love mimicking that in any way that I can. And it's all part of that sense of belonging again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If your dishwashers or your, greeters or anybody else feels important piece of the company, they will be more loyal and they will make sure that their eyes and their ears are open to something that isn't congruent with your messaging within the organization as well.
So so the nourishment, the end, that's a challenging piece for this busy world that we're in. What are some good strategies that you could, let's say someone doesn't really want to heal right away, but they want to do some nourishment, like they want to start to feel better and they just are ready for that healing piece. What are some of those strategies?
I love that you challenge me of these different combinations. But nourishment to me means both the inner and the outer, right? We must feed our souls with what makes us happy. So in order to have more joy in your life, you have to recognize what actually brings you joy. So we really start doing exercises that talk about what lights you up, what brings you joy, awareness. I also do a 5-minute ritual that's called the chair of joy, where we use our imagination and our body feels what joy feels like. And for a lot of people, they haven't remembered that. They don't remember what feels like to have joy feel in your body lit up. But the other part of nourishment is, what are you feeding it? Like, what kind of food are you putting in? We have, our body has specific needs, and you can't serve if your cup is empty and if your soul is empty. And so we have an emotional body, we have a physical body. What is that body trying to tell you? How is that showing up for you? So nourishment could come from a sense of community. There's a lot of people that just feel totally alone. And if they feel alone, it's kind of like, why bother? Right. So there's that mentality. And then there's the emotional body, where it's literally choosing what is the emotion that you would like to feel. And for somebody that lives in a place of darkness and shame and blame, and there is a leveling up and there's a choosing. You can't go right from all the way down from anger and shame and blame and guilt all the way up to, complete bliss and joy. Let's move you up the ladder. And so really it's, again, the awareness of, where are you? What are you choosing? What could you choose if you wanted to actually move up further? And so there's nourishment comes from a lot of different ways. And I have a lot of experts in the health and wellness field to help me with that.
That's great. That's great. Because it is about strategies. I mean, you have to if you're going to change, you have to make a conscious decision. Because we can all go through our lives. Like, my kids always laugh at me because I'm in my fifth career and doing all this fun stuff. And I ride a motorcycle. That's pure joy to me. And, but I had to make a conscious decision to say, my story no longer matters. It's my new story that's going to matter. Right?
Wow.
And you have to make that decision. And so I think someone like you to talk about this, to get out there and get the message out there that there are strategies and there is a way to feel joy. And leadership is a privilege, right? You're serving others. It's fun. I will talk to my clients and like you do, you get to do this. You get to shape somebody's life. You don't have to, you get to. And just changing that whole mindset.
It's so beautiful. I just got off of a call with somebody that, literally we both had tears in our eyes at realizing that we get to do this every day, that it's such a beautiful choice when you step into this role. And what I always tell the people that I'm leading to the possibility is that I know there's somebody out there praying for you, because we've all prayed for somebody to show up in our life and show us the path forward. We've all done it, whether it was with health, whether it was with money, whether it was with relationships. There's an area of your life you've prayed for somebody to show up and just say, come with me, I'll show you the way through this.
Yeah.
And that's what we have an opportunity to be for others right now. And I like to call it a way shower or a guide, because it feels a little bit less burdened as if you're the leader. Sometimes leader is too strong of a conversation because they think, oh, what if I fail? I'm going to fail all these people.
Yes.
If you were leading somebody through a burning fire, a house, you wouldn't say, what if I fail? You'd just do it. You'd just go for it. Let's go here. And so I really feel that all of us are being directed and guided and that possibility is there for all of us to step into the next level of leadership. And it's a privilege. It really is.
This has been such a great conversation. Well, if my listeners could take one key leadership lesson or guide lesson from today's conversation, what would you want that to be?
Be who you are, truly love and accept yourself, connect to yourself first so that you can connect to others. And that's the way the ripple of the world continues on.
You're making the world a better place all around. It's super, just so joyful to meet you. Where can people connect with you to learn more about your work?
Well, they can connect to me anywhere, Debbie Prediger, and you'll have that in the show notes. So it's really easy. That's my brand. And then, of course, you've got the other Empowering You community is all about entrepreneurs. And I have a brand new community that I am building, and it's all about women. And that is it. Be Extraordinary Women's Network, where we want to hear from you. If you are a woman that's making extraordinary moves across the world, this is where we bring the ripple back. We give hope to other women that might not see themselves in that as that leader yet. And so we're really just helping curate the conversation about how extraordinary life really is when we just step into our own light.
Well, you have made my day, you've brightened my light, and you're an extraordinary person. I'm so happy to have this conversation. And thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having this conversation. It's so important. And like I said, the first time I met you and I looked at your link and People Profit, oh my goodness. I was like, she needs to be part of my world and I need to introduce her to all of these other people. So continue to shine your light because you're already part of the huge ripple.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I look forward to connecting more. Thanks so much, Debbie. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap on this episode of the People Profit Podcast. If you found a nugget of wisdom or even just a spark of inspiration, share the love, subscribe, leave us a review, and pass the episode along to a colleague who's ready to build a people-first culture. Big thanks to our sponsor, Human Power Solutions, for championing workplace where humans thrive and profits rise. Want to learn how they can energize your team? Head over to hpowersolutions.com to get started. I'm Sandra Coker, reminding you that when you invest in people, you invest in profit. See you next time.